for UFC Fight Night Swanson versus Lobov. Let's start at the bottom. The first fight is Hector Sandoval versus Matt Schnell. Hector Sandoval just looks okay in my opinion. I think Matt Schnell looks really good. I liked him a lot in the Ultimate Fighter. I know he lost to Tim Elliott, but he was putting up a really good fight before he lost. And I think in his debut, he just, he's fighting at 35 instead of 25, and I just think Rob Font was way bigger than him, and he had a hard time dealing with the size. I think at 25, he'll be able to do much better, and I think Schnell's probably going to get this fight to the ground sooner or later and win by submission. Next is Brian Barberena versus Joe Proctor, and Joe Proctor hasn't fought in a while. I think he's like a jiu-jitsu guy who just likes to strike, and I just don't see how he really beats Brian Barberena. I think Brian Barberena is way bigger. I think his striking is a lot better, and I think his ability to get up when he's taken down is really good. So I just feel like he'll be able to stuff the takedowns, keep this fight standing, and Brian Barberena is probably going to win by knockout or TKO late in the second. Next is Alexis Davis versus Cindy Danos. And Cindy just looks okay. I think Alexis Davis, even though she just lost that fight to Sarah McMahon, I still feel like she's one of the top 15 chicks in the world at this weight class. I think she's going to bounce back. I think her striking is way better than Cindy's is, and I think her grappling is way better too. So I just think she's going to win by finish sooner or later. Next is Jessica Penne versus Danielle Taylor. And, Danielle Taylor to me just looks okay. I feel like they're trying to feed a win to Jessica Penne because Penne's lost a couple in a row. But I still feel like Penne is really good. Her striking is really good. Her jiu-jitsu is really good. And, I feel like they're just kind of feeding her an easy win. So I think Penne is going to win by submission. Next is Scott Holtzman versus Michael McBride. And Michael McBride's a good jiu-jitsu guy, but that's about it. I mean, he lost one fight already to, Nick Lenz. And, Scott Holtzman, to me, he's a really strong wrestler, and his striking's good. And all of his fights have been really fun. I think he's a really exciting wrestler who has really great cardio and pushes a really fast pace. I think Michael McBride's biggest weakness that I saw is that his conditioning wasn't amazing. So I just feel like Scott Holtzman's going to be able to outwork this guy and eventually get a TKO late in the third. Next is Dustin Ortiz versus Brandon Moreno. And Brandon Moreno is solid up-and-comer, but I just feel like there's a huge wrestling advantage for Dustin in this fight. I think, Brian Moreno's striking might be about a little bit better than Dustin's is, but I think Dustin's wrestling is going to be better than Brandon's jiu-jitsu, and I think he'll just be able to grind out a decision. Next is Talis Ladies versus Sam Alvey, and I really like Sam Alvey. I think, he's consistently beaten people, but I think he's shown two big weaknesses, and that's that really technical strikers that can put out a high output can beat him pretty easily. And I feel like a guy like Talis Ladies is probably going to be able to give him trouble. I know Sam Alvey's got really good takedown defense, but like when I watched him fight against Nate Marquardt, if you actually can't get him to the ground, he's not great at getting back up. And I feel like that's what's going to happen. I think Talis Ladies is good at hitting takedowns. It's just he has a hard time keeping guys on the ground. But I think his ability to keep guys on the ground is better than Sam Alvey's ability to get back up. So I must say Talis Ladies wins by decision, 29-28 at least. Next is Jake Allenberger versus Mike Perry. And this one's kind of a coin flip because Jake Allenberger, to me, I still feel like he just got lucky in that Matt Brown fight and caught him with a big body kick. I think that he's pretty much done at this point. I mean, I think he's gone 1-4 in his last 5, and most of his losses were knockout losses. I think Mike Perry's going to just move forward on him. They're going to swing back and forth, and I think Jake Chin is going to give out quicker than Perry's is. And I just think Mike Perry is going to win by knockout in the first round. Next is Joe Lozon versus Stevie Ray. And Stevie Ray's a good striker. I honestly think these guys are probably about even everywhere. The only difference is I think that Joe Lozon's jiu-jitsu is a bit better than Stevie Ray's is. I also think his wrestling's a bit better than Stevie Ray's. I think that this fight's going to look a lot like the Jim Miller fight, the one that Joe Lozon just had, the one that he should have won. I think that Joe might get a late submission, but I think he's going to be able to at least win a 30-27 decision just from hitting takedowns because Stevie Ray's shown that his takedown defense isn't very good, and good jiu-jitsu guys with good chop control can kind of control him. And I just think that's what's going to happen, so I got Lozon. Next is John Dodson versus Eddie Wineland, and to me, John Dodson's a really good fighter, but I think he has some big weaknesses at 35. I think the fact that he's way smaller than most of the guys, and the fact that he doesn't have a lot of reach, is going to hurt him in a fight like this where Eddie Wineland's tall and long, and he fights really awkward. I feel like, John Dodson lost that fight to Tim Elliott, even though he won by decision, and I feel like he has a hard time timing people with that weird striking style. And I just feel like Eddie Wineland's going to be able to use his reach and his awkward striking to keep John Dodson on the outside, and I think he's going to get a decision. Next is OSP versus Marcos de Lima, and to me this one really is just whoever catches who first. I think both these guys have the exact same strengths and weaknesses. They're both good strikers with shitty conditioning and like a little bit of grappling. And like I said, I don't really think either one of these guys is necessarily better than the other one. I think it's just whoever lands that first big punch is probably going to win. And I'm going to go with Marcos de Lima just because I still haven't really seen him lose a striking contest on the feet. It's only when he tries to force fights into grappling situations that he, like, you know, ends up in bad positions and loses by submission. But I think if he does strikes with OSP, I think he's a little bit faster and has more knockout power. And I think he should be able to get the knockout in the first round. Next is Al Iaquinta versus Diego Sanchez. And if this fight had happened like 3 years ago, I'd have picked Al Iaquinta, no questions asked. But Al Iaquinta hasn't fought in like 2 years, and Diego Sanchez has actually looked better in his last like 3 fights than he has in the last several years. I think he's using his wrestling a lot more now, which is smart because his conditioning is way better than most people. And Al Iaquinta's biggest weakness has always been his grappling game off of his back. He has submission losses to guys who are just good jiu-jitsu guys that his submission defense didn't hold up very well. And I think that that's probably what's going to happen in this fight. I think Diego Sanchez is eventually going to get this fight to the ground, whether he's on top or on bottom, and he's going to scramble for a submission just because he never stops moving. And I think he's going to win by submission with like a guillotine or a rear naked choke sooner or later. So I got Diego Sanchez. Finally, we got Cub Swanson versus Artem Lobov. And the commercials for this fight are the stupidest commercials I've ever seen. Like when Artem Lobov's like, I'm putting everything. You're not putting anything on the line, buddy. You're ranked like 57th out of like 63 people. You know, he's fought and beaten nobody. He's 2-2 in the UFC. He beat Ishihara Teruto, and that was a decent win, but it's not like this amazing thing. Cub Swanson's been ranked in the top 8 like since you know what I mean, since he's been ranked in the top 10. I don't think he's ever fallen out of the top 10 unless he had like an injury thing. But he's like instantly can't, you know what I mean? Cub Swanson's one of the best guys in the world at featherweight. I mean, he's not going to lose this fight. I think people think this is going to be a boxing match. I don't think it's going to be a boxing match. I think Cub is going to take him down sooner or later when Artem, you know, overextends, because Cub actually has a really good ground game. He's a really high-level black belt. He's got like 7 or 8 submission wins on his record. It's just he likes to box more nowadays, but that grappling is still there. I think that that's what's going to happen. They're going to box for a little bit. Artem's going to try to rush him or something. Cub's going to take him down and just win by submission sooner or later. Like I said, he's way better than Artem. This fight is really stupid. I don't understand why it's happening. I can understand if it was an island, but it's not. But either way, I think Cub's going to win by submission in round 1 or 2, lopsidedly. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe.